Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things movies. Joining me, as always, is the other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton, and we are both excited because joining us is the awesome Kristen Smith. Kristen, welcome once again. Looking forward to this.
Thank you for having me once again.
Absolutely. And right before we went on air, Paul, we learned that the next time we're going to have Kristen join us.
two short weeks away. I could not be more thrilled.
I agree.
Like that. Like seriously, it's been a rough week for me, and like Kristen being like, "Yeah, I'd love to join you guys for Barbie Oppenheimer," without any prodding from us either. By the way,
yeah, exactly.
Was like, oh my god, you just now I can be happy again. It's good. It's good. Like that was just music to my ears. I loved it.
Glad I can join.
We continue to
Team Barbie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's funny because I shared last week to those who watched that this would be my last month full time on the show, and I kind of jokingly tell folks that my price, my payment is I needed to go see Barbie because Paul knows I've been waiting for Oppenheimer. I love Christopher Nolan and his work, and he had to keep reminding. He's like, and Barbie. I'm like, oh, that's right.
Sergio knows I've been waiting to see Barbie. Like right. I have been just you said Team Barbie. I'm 100% Team Barbie, but I love Nolan too. So I'm totally stoked for it's just like this is I don't even, that weekend is just forget it. Like, don't even talk to me on Monday because.
And also the fact that like there's this weird cross marketing that's happening between the two of them that they are kind of like you would have thought that they would have been just terrible to have them both in the same place, but for some reason that's just boosting everyone to see both. Like, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
No, it's fantastic. And, we won't get too far down the rabbit hole, but I mean, talk about two contrasting films. I'm excited to have that discussion when it's time. But again, a return
palettes.
To
just fantastic. Fantastic
absolutely.
Use of color and non-use of color. It's just great.
Yeah. But, I'm tempted to go down that rabbit hole, but we won't because this week,
I know.
Actually, Kristen, you're joining us because you talked to us a couple weeks ago about a film that we're going to talk about in our main segment tonight. That I'm always thankful ahead of time when you say, hey, check out this film. We should probably talk about it. This time, I feel like I need to thank you even more so because after having seen it, it's like I wouldn't have thought to go see it. And it teaches me I still have room to learn about, hey, go check films out that aren't on the mainstream radar, so to speak. So I'm excited about tonight's conversation on the film Past Lives. So, Kristen, if you would, talk to us a little bit about like what made you bring this to us. What is it about this particular film that had you go, hey, we should talk about this?
Of course, yeah. So I learned about this from the Oscar, the Oscar channels that I usually follow. I think Past Lives had premiered in Sundance. And since then, the buzz for it, like as people have been seeing it, have been just like exuberant. Like people are talking about like how much like it emotionally impacted them, like how grateful it was. Like I even had back in April, I had a ticket to go see it in April in Chicago, like 2 months before it was supposed to open.
Oh, wow.
With the Q&A for the director, and I had to give it away because I was feeling sick that day.
Oh no!
Wow!
And my friend went to go see it, and she just was texting me crying, like, "What have you done? Like, why did you make me go see this movie? I'm so sad now."
Shut up! You got to see the damn movie.
I know, but she was just like so like over the moon about it, and so like. The first time I could go see it, like when it was playing in downtown Chicago, like I saw it in a packed theater, just full of like groups of people are going. Like you could see that there was dates that were being had there, and just like, that feeling of not quite a date movie that I would take people to.
You need to be secure in your relationship. You need to know where things stand.
But like afterward, like. It's a movie that just kept sitting with me. And like, the more I think about it, the more it just kept like really, I just kept like soaking up a lot of its like themes and just like its general mood.
Yeah.
And like all the way down to its soundtrack, which I've been listening to a lot on Spotify.
Okay.
That like it was just like I was so ready to go see it again. And I missed seeing it a second time.
Yeah.
So I'm just like waiting for it to come back on like video on demand so I can rent it again.
Yeah. This is a movie that is 20 times better if you have somebody you can talk to about it immediately after. Like it's one of those movies.
Well, and also, Paul, go ahead.
And also a good movie to watch where I was also placed on the far end of the theater.
Okay.
And so part of my thing was obscured by like a railing by one of the stairs.
No.
So I was constantly like watching the movie like this.
Oh. Man.
But it was still just such a beautiful movie. And immediately afterward, I was just like, when it started getting released, I was like, I want to talk about this with the group.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the things that for me, in terms of watching this film and the impact that it had, I mean, I love it when a movie makes me go, all right, well, I got to go find more work from Celine Song and find out and learn about, the director. And I love when a film does that, because not only does it have the emotional impact that it did, but then it makes you curious about their work. And, to your point, Paul, about, because you told me, you said, hey, make sure you go with someone. And it wasn't able to happen. And I walked out of the theater like, why can't the show be today?
yeah.
So you're absolutely right. So as we begin our discussion on this film, again, written and directed by Celine Song in her feature directorial debut, and wow, what
Insane.
a way to start.
Insane.
The cast of this film, for myself, again, folks that I can't name from other films, and that's sort of the beauty of it. Some of the best acting work I've seen this year. If not in the last 5 at least. This was a very strong cast in this film. That was one of the major factors that stood out to me, was like these were powerhouse performances, in my opinion.
Look, this is, for me, this is the example where, like, and Kristen will appreciate this, where it's like, everybody just get the fuck out of the way of this script.
Yeah.
Don't fuck it up, because this script is perfect. Just say your lines, and hand out, get the Oscar ready for Best Original Screenplay, and let's move on. Like, it's just perfect. It is, every single word is just like, oh, that's exactly what I would want to say right then. And oh, that's exactly what I would want to say right then. It's just every word is perfectly placed, perfectly, and then the direction for the timing of it. Like, nobody else could have directed this movie, because this script was so personal for her, and she knew every beat of it. It's so clear that she just knew every beat of it. And the direction is great, but the script is superlative, like it just, sometimes a movie comes around and the script is just like, this is fucking perfect. And that's what this is. I mean, it's just, I don't know how this isn't like a 10-1 favorite to win. Like, you'd have to bet $1 to win, or $100 to win $1, it's how good the script is.
Like, people are pretty much now written off, like, kind of like how it was, what was it? I'm trying to think of what were some movies recently that were kind of shoo-ins for their award. Like,
okay. Oh geez.
I was thinking of like Call Me by Your Name. How everyone was just like, yeah, that's going to be the adapted screenplay winner. And like no one questioned it. And there was never any sort of like anything that could come close to it.
Yeah. And I feel bad for like Barbie, because like I was really genuinely expecting to just love the script of Barbie. It's written by Greta Gerwig and Noah Baumbach. I mean, 2 of just the greatest. And they've collaborated on Lady Bird before, and so obviously it's like they know how to write an amazing movie. And like, there's just no way, like, this, if this doesn't win for a screenplay, I don't want to know what does. I just don't want to know, because it's that good. Like, it's just. Whew. Yeah.
I love that you're saying it this far out from award season, Paul, because you know that that's been a common discussion. I have to ask y'all your thoughts, because the film itself, again, you know, the script, you're absolutely right, is right on. It's one of those movies that you don't know what to expect, and then you come out and you're like so impacted.
Yeah.
But for me, I want to hear your thoughts, guys, on timing, the beats, the pauses, the way in which the director uses silence as conversation. There are exchanges between our two main characters that are just, they're talking, but they're responding, and the silence with which they respond and the time that they take to respond, I think, is as much conversation as it is the words. Does that make sense? That there's something to the timing of how this film is put together?
Yeah, I do think so, because there is something about some of it, I think, is kind of the direction from Celine Song. So the word I would kind of use for it is gentleness. And if you could just hear me out for a second, it reminded me a lot of Women Talking, in the sense that you take something that is very heavy. In this case, I don't think we even talked about what the movie is about.
Yeah, not yet.
Not yet. But like, you take a subject that could easily be so gut-wrenching, and the movie is just gentle. It is gentle, it's quiet, it allows itself to kind of to grow and to its eventual climax. But the way I just kept thinking about it was that it just felt there was just so much warmth from it, and so much life from it, and so much like you said, those small moments, those small silences which speak louder, that I think in a lesser version of this movie, you would have like strings playing, like it would be just like really hamming it up, like there would just be like crying scenes, or just them being so distraught, and you don't really have those kinds of things. You have it to where like they are, a lot of it's really internalized, and you're sorry, Paul.
No.
Like you want to say something.
Yep, I do, but you keep going.
No, I think that was mainly what I was going to say. Like so much of like that, those emotions are so internalized that eventually, when it's allowed to eventually come up, has so much power. That's like, even for a movie that I had such an emotional reaction to, I wanted to go back immediately to see it again, because of just how easy it was to watch.
Yes. Yeah.
And I want to really build on one of the things that you said, which was the silence is gentle, and a lesser director or a lesser screenplay would have the silence but feel the need to draw attention to it, and have somebody say, oh, well, that was awkward silence, or just do something to draw attention to the silence rather than just let it be. And really, look, okay, so we haven't actually said what the movie's about. The movie's about two people. We see them as, I guess they were 10 or 8 or 10, somewhere in that, two elementary school kids living in Seoul, Korea. And they are friends in school. And one of the girl reveals to the boy, hey, I'm moving. My family's moving to the United States. I'm immigrating to the United States. And then she reveals to her mom that I would actually kind of like to go on a date with him before we leave. And so they go on a date, and it's really an innocent, cute, fun date. And the mom says, I want her to have happy memories of Korea. And that's just the fucking seed. The seed is planted, and it is put in beautiful soil and given rain and sunlight, and it germinates into people that they end up looking for each other on Facebook. And I guess he looks for her on Facebook, and she discovers his comments on her dad, who's a filmmaker, her dad's Facebook page, and so we see them through the years in various stages where for a short while they try to do this long distance thing. It's weird, and then they go their separate ways, and we see them develop their own relationships. But then we, fast forward again, where they're at another stage in their life where she is married, he is not, and he's like, all right, I'm going to the United States. I'm going to go visit the United States. Never comes out and says it, but obviously to visit her. And it's just about it's a movie about a relationship, and that's it. And the interesting thing about the two things that I love the most about this movie is that the relationship, as they get older, every other relationship and thing that they drive and strive for in their life gets more simpler, but this relationship gets more complex. It's a juxtaposition, and it's thrown into light because at first, when she's little, she wants to win a Nobel Prize for be a Nobel winning playwright, and then she just kind of wants to win a Pulitzer, and then she'd just be happy to win a Tony. And it's everything gets in the relationship, and the interaction between the two men in her lives is just ridiculous. It's so good. It's so perfect, and it's uncomfortably not uncomfortable. Like they should not be this adult. There's just no reason for it. And yet there they are being adults, and it's like, fuck, this is amazing. Like how did they know to be this adult? It's crazy. It's crazy.
It's the power of the film that we don't fall into the tropes that we think or that we're used to seeing happen.
Right.
We know the entire sequence in the bar, which is where the film actually begins.
Yeah.
And then when you finally get to that point, so much has occurred, especially from the point that he arrives in New York, and then you know that he's there to see her, to see like, okay, is this really fate?
Yeah.
Because there's that whole Inyan concept of fated relationships, and and you see there's so much that's done, not just with the script and with the direction, but also with the blocking. There are various posters that I found for this film, and I picked this one that we see on screen because if you look closely, and this was throughout the film, the placement of these two people is very purposeful, in my opinion. Look at their hands.
They are so close without actually touching.
Exactly. And that, to me, captured the spirit of what this film was about, these two people coming together, but knowing that we're not going to fall into this trap of telling a story about some sort of love affair or whatever. Yeah. And by the time you get to the bar and they begin to speak to one another in Korean and thus basically go into their own bubble for a bit, the husband and his reaction, I mean, so powerful because it does nothing that we are used to a story like this doing.
Right.
And I think you captured it perfectly, Paul, in that they were adults.
Yeah.
They were mature adults in their reaction.
Like in a lesser movie, like he would be just like, I can't believe you're doing this. Like he would have that like big outrage, like
snide remarks at the bar.
I'm thinking like Adam Driver Marriage Story or something.
Yeah.
And instead, like what we get, and probably one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie, was he has his own scene where he expresses, just like as a writer, being like, man, the story of the two of y'all is so good.
Yeah.
He's like, I can't write a better story than that. He's like, I can't even be a better husband than that romantic story. And like, instead of having someone who's an adversary to this relationship, like you feel for him and the way he is playing a part in this whole story. And I'm just like, oh, you're so good.
And a few observations I want to have. First, I don't think a man could write a movie this good. Like, because I don't think a man can be this adult in his ideas of how a relationship can play out. I think a man men can certainly have these relationships but a male writer would struggle to capture how this could play out, because I think a male writer would be too drawn to the idea of there's got to be tension rather than just letting the tension be. And the other thing I want to say is this movie is impossible like prior to like 1995, like just because you just don't have characters this mature. Like just go watch Kramer versus Kramer. I mean, like it's just the like the exact opposite. The you know, Meryl Streep and Dustin Hoffman are the exact opposite of everybody in this movie. Like you can't have like adults are not adults in any movies, you know, for an entire film in the 70s and 80s. It's impossible. And so you know, I God bless this movie. It's just flawless.
Yeah. The one of my favorite scenes in the film is that brief exchange between the two gentlemen where he apologizes to him about, you know, having gone into the, you know, speaking Korean to one another. And there's that beat. And then he says that won't, something to the effect of that won't happen again. And it doesn't come from a place of like, you know, shame or like I should have. It's because I respect you too much. One of the best lines in the film is when he tells her, it hurts to like him so much.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I love this film.
But you're forgetting his response to that a couple beats later. And it was a couple beats later.
Right. Yeah,
the husband's response to that was, "You were right to come."
Right.
Like,
no, absolutely.
What the fuck?
Who does that?
Who says that? That's amazing. Like that was just perfect.
Yeah.
Perfect. I loved it.
And
it was so nice. I just want to say it was really nice to see two male adults in a movie. And I'm being genuine. I'm being 100% genuine. It was really nice to see that. And you know, I can't speak enough about it. I just want to move back to New York now.
I know, it made me so like miss New York City so much. It made me want to go visit again.
Character in this film. The city was a character in this film.
Sure.
Kristen, I really selfishly would like to hear your thoughts on the final scene, and mainly for me, because the last image we see of her reaction when she's back with her husband after having walked her friend to the Uber, is powerful. But in the moment of the long walk to go meet the driver, and then everything that happens before he gets in the car, I want to get both of your thoughts on that sequence, because talk about landing a plane, like if the film is a plane and landing it perfectly, again, through silence, through, you know, what all the unsaid that now I feel doesn't need to be said between these two, right? Just your impacts, because for me, that is what it was one of those rare moments in literally all the years I watched movies that I sat there, you know, tears, but also feeling like this really is a complete experience.
Oh goodness. I mean, I just remember my experience in the theater watching it, where they're walking, and as you said, there's a lot of silence through it, and you could just that feeling in the audience, everyone is just like holding their breath, wondering like what is about to happen right now. Like, this is the scene that we've seen many times in many other movies, and we have no idea, based off of just like how these characters are going and how they're going to be playing out, and just that collective sigh after, like, once it finishes, was just like so cathartic. Like, it really did feel like everyone was just like like by the very end of it. And just, I was gonna jokingly say it's almost like romantic edging, because they keep getting their hands are so close, as you said, like in the poster, like they're so close to each other, like they are so like within inches of just like having a completely different story than what we're seeing. And just like finally getting that closure that she is also getting was just so powerful.
Yeah.
I will compare it and juxtapose it to my favorite. So this is a romance my favorite romantic comedy of all time, When Harry Met Sally. Also a movie where New York very much is a character in the movie, and has a very similar thread line, you know, in just in the sense of two people whose lives are intertwined but never together. But with When Harry Met Sally has a very similar ending where Harry's running, you know, through the streets on New Year's Eve and runs into the party and then confronts Sally. And where this movie, they walk over to the middle of a street and share a moment of quiet together. Harry needs to share a moment of bluster, and that ending is perfect for that movie, and this ending is perfect for this movie, and it's just such an amazing juxtaposition. But there's so many similarities between the two completely different movies, and it's just but this one is the adult version of that. Like, it really is what it boils down to, is that this one this is how adults handle the situation. And it's beautiful. It just shows that every relationship you have ever had has beauty to it. And I really hope that everybody has been able to, it makes you hope and look back on your life and say, did I treat difficult endings in a relationship like an adult like this? And if I didn't, have I been able to make up for that? Like, have I reached a point where it's like, okay, we can be adults now? And I hope everybody can, because, one of the things I thought of immediately after watching this movie was there are three kinds of people in the world. The first kind is people who will never see this movie, and I feel bad for them. The second kind is people who see this movie and immediately Facebook message somebody. And the third kind is people who see this movie and want to Facebook message somebody, but don't. Like, I just feel like, because this is such an adult movie, I feel like everybody has somebody in their life that they can feel like, you know what, this is my adult friend who I have also happen to have a special link to in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like I hope there are people that didn't feel like, I hope nobody watches this movie and feels like it's like, oh, well, that's not how you handle this situation, because I don't think that's the message of the movie. I really don't.
Not at all.
Yeah. I think the message of the movie is actually, no, you reach out to them, because love is so complicated, and love is so rare, and love is so resilient. And love doesn't have to mean that you hurt somebody else and fuck a person. It can be just having a really tender, intimate, weekend together. It's like, it's great. It's great.
Absolutely. So, Kristen, as we prepare to wind down our conversation, and we'll head into ratings here in a bit, if you had the opportunity to tell people like why they should see this film, what is your message to those out there?
That's perfect.
I don't know. I'd almost want to go back to I almost want to check my Instagram post of when I first talked about it, because I had a lot to say whenever I first saw it. Let me see if I can find it again.
Sure.
Because it has been some time since I've seen it.
While she's looking for that, Sergio, I'm going to ask you that question.
Yeah.
What would you say to somebody to make them want to go see it?
There's two things for me that, and it's funny because I had Jen is a hard nut to crack when it comes to, hey, these are movies I think you should see. And the two things that I know that I communicated to her, and if I can get her to see a movie, I can get anybody to see a movie. It was, number one, if you really want to see a movie that tells a story in a way that is refreshing and not it doesn't bog you down. Like, she's not a fan of romantic. I wouldn't call this necessarily a romantic comedy, but it's a romantic film.
It's a romance. Yeah.
It's a romance film. Not a big fan on her part of those films. It's a romance film that that focuses on story and relationship in a mature way, and you'll come out of it feeling hope. Hope that love is real, and that when mature people, walk in love, regardless of how a relationship plays out, like this is what this movie gives you hope about. And secondly, I want people to be able to see a film that, if you are interested at all in the background of how film is made, or how choices are made with scripts and such, like if you really want something to give you room to explore that, this film will do that, because you end up wanting to ask the questions of like, why was, like I said, why was so much time given to dialogue and spacing, blocking, whatever. It's sort of twofold for me, because I've learned, because of this experience with you guys, that I am interested in how the craft of filmmaking happens. And this movie, more than any that I've seen recently, was like, wow, like it gives me so much to dig into and explore, just from a film standpoint, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I 100% agree. And the phrasing that I did use when I first talked about this was that I described the movie as like a warm hug that you're giving to a person that you don't know when you're going to see them next time, or if you will ever see them again. And that to me is such a and it's a movie that like has warmth, despite the fact that it is, can be kind of sad.
Sure.
Kind of using air quotes, because a lot of emotions kind of came from it. But like that kind of special experience, I cannot think of another movie that's like this, that has such a unique take on a romance, of what kind of a romance it's trying to share with you.
Yeah.
And oh goodness, my brain cannot form sentences right now.
Yeah, I'd be happy with just go see it.
No, but like
it is. It's all about the experience.
But to me, like that's so special. And what was I gonna say was that it's movie that's so unique and special in the type of relationship it's trying to depict. That's also universal. That like all of us have had these types of relationships that we have wondered about, that we have thought about like over the years. And like for a movie to be able to capture this in such a way that like is both very specific and universal at the same time is just phenomenal. And I think everyone should see it.
Yeah. I don't mind saying on air, this movie made me think of someone that had not crossed my mind in more than 15 years.
Oh,
it was that powerful. And so, Paul, any final thoughts on Past Lives before we get into ratings?
I love love.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it. Love. That sums it up well. So here on the show, you guys know by now, we do 5 taco ratings for films. Guac can be added for extra. So, gosh, I sometimes I hate doing ratings, Paul, but because films are just so awesome. But if you don't mind kicking this off, then we'll hear from Kristen, and then I'll close it out.
It's 5 tacos, and the script gets guac.
Okay, excellent. I had a feeling.
No.
So, Paul, 5 tacos plus guac on Past Lives. Kristen, what about yourself?
I am doing 4.5 tacos. The guac I am adding for the score, which is every ambient album I listen to when I'm really sad.
Oh no!
Like, literally, the score is just this beautiful, like ambient, almost kind of like an indie alternate, like band score. And the entire time I was watching it, I was just like, I want to listen to this every single time I'm sad, because it's just so relaxing.
Kristen, I don't want you to ever be sad. I want to go give you a hug.
Someday we will all. I love it. Virtual. All right. For myself, and I'm not even going to try to explain this, but there's just something about the guac making it messy. This is a solid 5 taco movie for me. I know the guac in the future would be added, because I cannot wait to see this film again. I absolutely have found a movie that is going to go into its own little niche, and is going to be one that I'll watch over and over, because I want to explore the details of it. So,
all right, I have a question for you.
So far, for me, the best movie I've seen this year.
I have a question for you too. My spouse hates sad endings. Okay.
Mhm.
Hates them. Cannot stand movies with sad endings. With that being said, does this movie have a sad ending? Because I'm leaning towards no,
No,
but
I would say no.
okay, good. All right, good.
No.
So then I can recommend
there
that.
is an emotional cathartic release.
Yeah.
that we get
Cathartic
to-
is what I would
that
use.
we get
Yeah.
to witness.
Yep.
That I think makes the movie perfect in
Yep.
its moment, in its end.
Yep.
Yeah, this is
Okay.
not a sad film.
I agree.
So,
I agree.
yeah,
Even though it
love
cried
it.
like a baby, but that's
oh yeah, it was just so real. It was just, amazing.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Kristen, as always, thank you for bringing this film to us and for joining us for this conversation. I look forward to 2 weeks from now, as does Paul, when you get to join us for Barbie and Oppenheimer. That's going to be a whole lot of very different films.
Before you go, Kristen, have you ever seen the movie The Holy Mountain?
Yes, I have with Jodorowsky.
Do you want to hang out for a minute and talk about The Holy Mountain with me and my "What the hell did I just watch" segment?
I mean, I can come in for moral support. I was stoned as hell when I watched it, so I don't.
I wish I had been. Why don't you hang out for a minute and we'll talk?
Okay, yeah.
Yep. Okay, cool. Because Sergio,
Absolutely.
This movie needs more than one person.
That's fine. No, yeah. I think I regret reading the synopsis. So
the synopsis doesn't do you any good. So
yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So that brings us to this week's installment of What the Hell Did I Just Watch? So, Paul, take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So the movie this week is The Holy Mountain. And I know, Sergio, you're a big fan of. How did you find this movie?
Yes.
And this is a movie that literally has been on my list and literally been on top of my list since the very first time I did the segment, because once I realized, wait a second, I'm going to have to find weird movies to watch every week. And by the way, Kristen, just so you know, Suspiria was the movie that was the impetus for this segment. Okay. So have you seen Suspiria?
Which one is it?
The remake, not the original 70s one.
I did not see the new one because there was a scene in there I did not want to see, but the original Suspiria is delightful.
Yeah, sure. So I actually did that on like our 100th episode as like look, we're doing Suspiria because I did Suspiria. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So that, just so you know the kind of movie that I'm looking for. And so I immediately went online and I was like, okay, I'm going to find lists of the strangest movies that are out there. And just constantly The Holy Mountain was one or two, like on every list that I found. And so this has been on my list forever. I just never got around to it. I know for a fact that a few years ago it wasn't streamable, and then I found out in 2022 that it did reach it did become streamable. And so then I put it really hard on the list, but I just never had a moment. But then, Sergio, you said you're leaving, so I was like, oh, I got to do Holy Mountain now. So what you're witnessing here in this in the movie poster is literally the first scene of the movie, like minus the heart and the flames. What we're presented with is a pilgrim alchemist with a Klingon forehead shaving the heads of two women. And that's what you're seeing here. So there you see the pilgrim alchemist. When he takes off his hat, you realize he has a giant Klingon forehead, and for some reason he's shaving the head of two naked women. Never explained or anything. That's all right. They do show up later though. And this is a movie in 3 acts in every way, shape, or form of the idea of a 3-act movie, but in the sense where it's like they're really 3 separate movies, where the first act is basically silent. Like for the first 40 minutes of the movie, not a single word is uttered. And you're just kind of following this Jesus figure as he goes around Mexico and encounters horrible, I look, if you've seen a movie filled with tropes about religion in Mexico, you've seen this movie, the first 40 minutes of this movie, because it's horrible conquistadors coming in and killing Mayans in some way, shape, or form. It's Jesus coming in and, breaking up people doing something bad in a temple. It's Jesus being sacrificed. It's, people turning on Jesus. It's, the moneyed class turning their head on the poorer class. It's every fucking trope that you could imagine without any words. The highlight is that they're at one point they encounter like this mini like diorama of, not mini, but it's a pretty large diorama of a Mayan city where they have lizards dressed up in Mayan clothes, and then all of a sudden somebody carries a giant boat in and opens up the boat, and a whole bunch of toads in conquistador outfits come out, and the toads start attacking the Mayan lizards. I swear that happened. And Kristen, even though you were super high when you saw it, that happened. That did happen.
You're unlocking some memory in here. Something's happening as you're describing this. And I'm like, did that happen? I think that did happen.
That did happen. So eventually our Jesus figure makes his way to our pilgrim alchemist. And what we see is Jesus poops. They still haven't said anything yet. The alchemist takes the jar that Jesus pooped into, and he does some alchemy things. And by the way, this is when we find out he's an alchemist. We don't find out he's an alchemist until much later in the film. So Jesus poops. He turns the poop into gold. Like he takes the Jesus shit and turns it into gold. By the way, Gene, that's not a commentary on religion, is it? And so the first words uttered in the movie are from the pilgrim alchemist to Jesus, saying, "You are excrement. You can change yourself into gold." And that is literally the first complete line uttered by anyone in the movie about 40 minutes in. Wow. And of course, the albino or the pilgrim alchemist has an albino peacock. I mean, that goes without saying, right? Like, I didn't need to mention that.
Oh, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. And so that ends the first act, and then we're welcomed into the second act, where we're introduced to the 9 planets, where Jesus is Mercury, and then the alchemist is bringing in 8 other planets to go find the Holy Mountain, because the idea is that once every religion and archetype ever has said once you find the mountain, then you gain true enlightenment and you gain immortality. And so he collects basically the 8 worst people on the planet to go with him and Jesus to go find the Holy Mountain. They're named after planets. Like, so there's Venus, who runs a business concerned with comforting people, and he has 20 lives. There's a lady named Mars who runs a weapons factory, and unlike having 20 wives, she has like 20 naked dudes for secretaries. Lots of schween in this movie. If you just like seeing penises, this is a nice variety.
Thankfully, I blocked that out.
Okay. So there's Jupiter, and he runs an art factory, including naked people who he paints their butts, and they sit down on a piece of paper, and that is the factory art. There's Saturn, who runs a toy factory, but they only make war machines. And I swear to God, this is true. It's stated by Saturn herself that she has the kids play with the toys to train them to attack Peruvians. I swear to God, that's true. It's literally Peruvian, so I apologize to all the Peruvians in the audience. There's Uranus, who is this weirdo financial advisor, and yes, you can imagine that he talks with such an affect that they are making a Uranus pun. There's Neptune, who happens to be the chief of police, and he has a quote unquote sanctuary of 1,000 testicles. Like, literally, like, in order to join the police force, you need to have your testicles cut off. Do you remember the sanctuary of testicles, Kristen?
No, I don't.
Oh, okay. Sorry. And The best is Pluto, who is an architect and realizes that they could save a lot of money by convincing people they don't need homes and just shelters. And the shelters that he sells them are rows and rows of caskets. So like the middle hour of the movie is literally meeting these 8 horrible people that are now going to go find the Holy Mountain. And then the last half hour, the third act, is them finding the Holy Mountain and then more biblical nonsense. So I swear to God, this is the strangest fucking movie I've ever seen in my entire life. And Sergio, you've been around for a lot of really weird shit.
Oh yeah.
What do you remember of this movie, Kristen? Like, what do you remember?
I remember the Rainbow Room.
Yeah.
There was that giant rainbow room, which I thought was pretty freaking dope, and I wanted to live there.
1973. Yeah, there was a big, huge rainbow room with a giant circle table in the middle.
And I do remember. I remember there was a particular amphitheater that was used in a section there. It's been a long time, and I remember. I remember the frogs and the lizards. I do remember that.
Yeah.
Probably because I was just like, oh, animals. I like this.
Yeah. Goes downhill from there. Yeah, no, this is a bonkers fucking movie, people. Like, this is just an absolute, and you notice the money that's burning. So what ends up happening is the alchemist gathers all of these the 8 horrible people together and tells them in order to go look for the money, you have to detach yourself from all material goods. And so they actually burn all their money. And then they get to Jesus and he has to burn his money and just pulls out like the $2 that he has and puts it in the fire, and everybody laughs at him. And it's just kind of like, all right, wow. That's where we are.
Wow.
Yep.
This is title notwithstanding, this is, I think, the pinnacle of your what the hell did I just watch journey. Like,
it's the Holy Mountain.
This is the weirdest. Yeah.
I feel like I've gained enlightenment just.
Oh man. Well, where can people find this, Paul?
Yeah, you can find it on wherever you stream videos, wherever you buy VOD, like
gotcha.
Wherever you get whatever your VOD vendor of choice is, they've got the Holy Mountain.
Gotcha. All right. Well, yeah, there you go. I really don't know what else to say. So,
I'm glad, right. Kristen, I'm really glad you remembered the lizards and frogs, because I
remember the good parts.
Yeah, that was really that. Like, Sergio, I highly, highly recommend you just Google Holy Mountain Mayan lizards, and you'll get to see that scene. Like,
I will check it out.
It is absolutely worth seeing that scene. Like, because it is just so over the top imagery that it's like, oh, come on. Like, this is too easy. Like, you
What year did this film come out?
I want to say 73. Might have been 73.
That rings a bell. Yeah. 73.
Yeah, he's a famous surrealist director, Jodorowsky.
Right. Yeah.
Oh
my God, Sergio.
Yes?
Kristen. Spoiler alert. He made a version of Dune.
I have seen the documentary about it.
Okay. So, spoiler alert, guess what movie I'm going to be watching for our Dune when we do Dune.
Yeah.
Jodorowsky's Dune?
Yeah, for sure.
It's really fascinating. Like, I would have loved to see it.
Yeah.
And also learning how much it influenced movies afterward, like for being a failed project, is just fascinating.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's streaming somewhere. I didn't look it up. I imagine it is.
Please remind me when it's time. So.
Okay.
Won't be until November? December?
Yeah.
November. Kristen, we'd love to have you on for Dune too, by the way. We're going to throw that. We're putting that pen poll up right now. Kristen for Dune 2. All right.
Just remind me, because I'll forget. Although I do have a recommendation for what the hell did I just watch for our Barbie Oppenheimer episode.
Hit me.
It's Shin Kamen Rider.
Spell.
Shin
S-H-I-N.
Shin S-H-I-N. Kamen K-A-M as in Mary, E-N as in Nancy, and then Rider.
Not Karen Rider, Kamen Rider.
Kamen Rider.
Yeah. Okay. Done. That's for you. I'll find it.
Because it comes out on streaming on the day that Barbie and Oppenheimer come out.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. I'm in.
Excellent. All right.
And I've already seen it, so I'm
Okay.
excited to hear what you have to say.
All right, good.
All right. Well, Kristen, thank you so much for joining. You're welcome to hang out the rest of the time because we're kind of on the downslope of the show, but
Yeah.
I'm not sure what
Well,
your schedule is, so
Yeah.
it's totally up to you. So
I actually get going because I have work I got to do. But
Awesome.
thank you
All
again
right.
for having me.
thank you for joining us, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. All right. Have a good night, Kristen. Thank you.
You too. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Always a fun time
For
when we
sure.
have Kristen on the show. Look forward to having her back in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Right now, though, we're going to go ahead and get my segment out of the way. I finally saw Turning Red, Paul.
Okay. Fantastic.
Oh, my goodness. Can I just start by saying that the way in which food gets animated these days, good Lord. This, I don't know if you recall this, but the scenes in which there's one scene in which Mei-Mei's father is cooking a meal at the very beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
And I was like mesmerized. Like the film is wonderful. I love this movie. I had a blast watching it with Jen last night. And yet I tell you, like right from the outset, there's the scene where, you know, the little girl gets home and you know, she helps her mother with the temple and such, and then it's time for dinner, and the sequence that follows, it's maybe 30 seconds of him cooking, and then later in the film there's another quick food scene. I just can't believe the power of animation and, you know, in the way in which it can depict food. I had to say that as part of
Okay.
that's
All
part
right.
of my thoughts on this film.
Fair enough.
This was a fun story. It's a young girl growing up and discovers that there is a history to her a family.
The
I don't know.
females.
You read the females of her family, and it is because of Sun Yi, who is the deity that they revere. The
turn into
women
red
of the
pandas.
family turn into red pandas at certain points in their lives.
Yeah.
And silly concept, fantastic film.
Yeah.
The hijinks that follow, everything about this movie, Paul, for me, and this is one of those rare weeks where every single movie I saw, loved it.
Interesting. Okay.
Loved it. Okay.
Okay.
Past lives, this one.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of fun. And the sequence, Fort Town, kills me. The boy band that's in this film.
Yes. Yeah.
But the
Speaking of
climax
boy
of the film, when you know when we learned that not only is, you know, you learn that the mother, her red panda, was destructive, but then you see it and you're like, good Lord.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sequences in the entire film is at the end where they have that total bar because they have to rebuild the Toronto the Sky Dome.
Right.
Just like, what? Ridiculous, but
Yeah.
Hilarious for the film.
Yeah.
I really love this movie, and I'm glad it
Yeah.
was on Jen's list.
This is one of the movies that makes me sad that Pixar had lost its way in releasing movies into a theater,
Yeah.
because I feel like there's a lot of, especially young women, older girls who this movie would really resonate with,
Oh,
and
sure.
didn't get a chance to see it because
Yeah.
they just missed it. And yeah.
I hope that it's still got some
Yeah.
you know, traction.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. It was funny. I laughed so much, and
It is a
that
lot.
whole the final act was just hilarious. All the aunties,
Yes.
it's amazing. So another one off the list. I'm not sure what's going to happen next week, but I'll let you know whatever that the list is dwindling down. So
Yeah.
got to figure out what's coming up next. In fact, I have it right here. It shouldn't take me but a second. Couple of the ones that remain, since we only have 2 more episodes of this. Between Paul, Bridesmaids, and Bring It On.
Bridesmaids.
Okay, so Bridesmaids will be next week, and I cannot not do Bring It On. It's the one I've avoided the longest, and Jen is holding me to that film. So that'll be the
Okay.
last one that we do. So,
All right.
all right, at least for now. All right. So, Paul, we have a couple of real quick reviews this
Yep.
week, and
Yep.
I'm going to ask you if you would to take lead on Joyride because that's the one film I was not able to get to.
All right,
so
cool.
I'm going to
Hey,
turn it over to you.
Sure. Speaking of boy bands, Joyride, there's a scene where they get to play a K-pop band.
Yeah.
It's funny. So this is a great, not great. This is a good adult comedy. And so like last week I got to talk about No Hard Feelings as being, hey, adult comedies, remember these? Hey, Joyride, adult comedies, remember these? The difference between Joyride and No Hard Feelings is that Joyride really takes much bigger swings in what it's trying to accomplish within its comedic scenes, and the funny is much more funny, but the not funny is significantly less funny than anything that where No Hard Feelings, it takes some swings for sure, and they're really funny, but it never it connects more often than Joyride does. But when Joyride connects, it's like a fucking home run every single time it connects. There are some scenes in this movie that are absolutely hilarious, and then there are scenes in this movie that just don't work on any level, and I wonder who was this for. But hey, it's definitely funny and 100% worth checking out.
Excellent. All right. Well, definitely we'll add that to my list of movies I need to see. We have one left that, man, I'm happy it was on our list because, wow, talk about enjoying a very charming little film called Rye Lane. You can find it on Hulu. Paul, this movie was fun.
Yep. And I felt it was a good like after dinner mint to go with whatchamacallit,
Past Lives. Same thought.
And so that's why I even reached out to you and said, hey, let's do this, even though it didn't come out this week. Like it's been out for a little while now, but I was just like, you know what? Hey, Sergio, check this out. Let's do this. And, talk about cities that are part of a movie. This movie takes place in Southern London. It's a walk and talk romantic comedy where it takes place literally, 90% of the movie takes place over a 24-hour period. Not even 24, like a 3-hour period.
Right.
And is just utterly charming in every sense of the word and super, super real and funny and just, just a really pleasant breath of fresh air. When I say the after dinner mint, I mean that in just every possible sense of the word.
Sure. I mean, the set pieces when they flash back were so creatively done. The dialogue is so genuine. And the thing that I loved about Rye Lane that it reminded me of Past Lives was the genuineness of the dialogue exchange between our two characters. It just was real. And this really is a fun film. I hope people watch it. I already, as you know, have posted it on my Facebook and said, you've got to check these movies out. And Rye Lane just is so charming. And again, it's going to be one I'll revisit because it was just so, I love good dialogue. I love fun dialogue. So
can I just say the visuals of this movie are unbelievable. The color palette that they use is just, it's astounding. Like
it's gorgeous.
It's just absolutely gorgeous. And every character wears pieces of clothing that each piece of the clothing has its own color, and and none of it is like, oh, this is like a green with a a muted mint green with a it's like it's blue with red with green, and it's yellow with purple with, it's just like boom boom boom, here's big colors. And the use of fisheye lens, I just love. I just, it's just unexpected and fun, and everything about this movie is just super fun.
This is definitely going on a list that I'm looking forward to seeing with Jen because I was like, you've got it. I'll never forget. I was 14 minutes in, and I sent her a text. I said, "Hi, recommend. We got to watch this film together." So very, very nice. All right, very good. So it has been another fun week of movie talk. Paul, thank you as always for all you bring to the show.
Thank you, my man. Thank you.
Awesome. Next week, Dead Reckoning Part 1.
I'm going tomorrow
Um,
night. I am fucking ready. 6:30 IMAX. Bring it on.
Nice. Yeah, I'm looking forward to. I've got so much to do between now and the end of the week before my trip, but I am scheduled to see it on Sunday sometime. So
Okay.
I found a theater in Houston, so we'll be ready to roll. With that being said, what else are we going to talk about next week? Because really, that's going to be the centerpiece of the show.
We've got Bird Box Barcelona.
Okay.
I
Bird
think
Box.
that's it.
Is that 2 or is that 1 film?
Bird Box Barcelona.
It's
Do
called-
you not remember the original Bird Box movie?
I do
from
remember. I
Netflix?
do.
So this is like
Okay.
a not a sequel, but like a it takes
It's-
place in the Bird Box universe.
Right.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, great. I will make sure I get to that as well. And yeah, so more fun stuff to come in another week. So looking forward to that. To all of you out there, make sure you go check out the films we talked about today: Past Lives, Rye Lane, Joyride, even some of the weirdness that Paul brought to us this week. And
Classic
let us know what you
weirdness.
think.
Just
Classic-
all time weirdness. All time.
Absolutely. Weirdness.
It's number 1 or 2 on every single list of weird movies for a reason.
I just hearing you talk about it.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. But hey, that's what we're here for. So again, Paul, thanks as always. All of you out there, thank you for being with us. We really appreciate it. And we leave you with the same thought as always. You are awesome. You're amazing. And the world's a better place because you are in it. We will see you next week for our next episode of Real to Real Talk. Have a great night, everybody.